So today I'm going to talk about something a little bit different, but I think it puts a lot of things into perspective. And I've written notes on this because there's a lot to talk about. So if I look down here, it's because I'm looking at my laptop screen because I've made some notes and things that I want to tell you about. So last night, I had a light bulb moment. So I have always put my business downturn to a loss of my creative mojo, which I've been struggling with for a couple of years and I have spoken about before on this channel. And I blame that on all sorts of little challenges that have happened in the last 7 years. So I lost my studio in 2018 and I had to restructure how I was earning the money from my business. And just as things started to look like they were falling into place, COVID happened, and that alone has triggered a whole wave of business challenges which are really difficult to surmount when you are just a business of one person. I have also struggled with the sizable downturn in the usefulness of social media. They have become pay-to-play sites, so unless you pay for the advertising, you won't be seen. Everyone seems to be on it. They've added a lot more advertising, so when you're scrolling through, say, Instagram, you'll probably see more adverts than actual things you wanted to see. And there's a lot of AI trash out there now, so it's hard to know whether what you see is actually real. And I've found it very easy in that respect to walk away from social media. I am a massive introvert. I have no interest in playing that game, in-person stuff, and trying to act like an enthusiastic social media influencer online, like you see on a lot of these TikTok shops. It just isn't me. And I can't change that. That's just the way I am. But then, as I say, yesterday I had a light bulb moment and I was kind of mindlessly searching for articles to read on the internet, and I came across two which have put a lot of things in perspective for me and are making me think differently about how my approach to my business and how my business has been working or not working over the last few years. So I'm pretty sure I've mentioned before, I am a woman of a certain age, and since 2022 I have been experiencing the joys of the perimenopause. And at first I didn't realise what it was. At first I thought I was like losing my mind, because the first thing that I remember hitting me was the brain fog and forgetting names of celebrities that I saw on the TV, things I used to remember really easily. My recall was getting sloppy and a bit foggy, and I thought, maybe there's something wrong with me. And I was getting like really itchy skin. That drives me mad. And then we had that really, really hot summer in 2022, and I had two horrific migraines during the course of that hot, I don't know how long that went on for, a month, 2 months, I'm not sure, and it was absolutely crippling. And then I started to twig what was going on, because my best friend was ahead of me in the menopause game and unfortunately has had a terrible experience of it. They reckon there are something like 70 symptoms for the menopause, and I'm pretty sure she's experienced most of them. I don't know how she functions every day. I've been quite lucky in that Now I realise what's going on. I have been able to mitigate some of the symptoms and take the edge off them. I have got really into, staying really well hydrated, limiting alcohol, making sure that I have a regular sleep pattern. Because the thing that I tend to get more than anything is the headaches. And my headaches always last 3 days, and I can't really function when they happen, because it's not just a headache, it's like a full body energy drop. It's like having a massive hangover. And so they were getting really bad, and then I found out about, sometimes supplements help. So last autumn I started taking vitamin D, because people kept telling me, if you want to get through winter, because I struggle with winter, take vitamin D. And also magnesium is supposed to be really good for tiredness. And the consistent symptom that I have of the perimenopause for me is fatigue. I have this constant low level physical fatigue. I have days where I'm a lot more alert, a lot more buoyant, but most of the time I am struggling on limited energy. And that's physical, but it's also mental. So I find it really hard now to focus on anything for a long time. I've had to find strategies around certain things, like I started to badly neglect my WordPress blog, which is attached to my business, because I couldn't write an article. I couldn't focus enough to write an article. So I started just a couple of months ago to experiment with ChatGPT, and I said I'd never use AI stuff, but I'm using it to build the bones of articles I want to write. And once the structure is there, I can then go in and read what's there, and I can top and tail it. I can alter anything that's not quite right. It inspires me to add more bits that are from me. So it's my article with a little bit of help. But without that, I would not be able to write an article. I can't do it anymore. I just can't. And I found these 2 articles, and one of them was very interesting in terms of creativity. So one of them was an article called "From Menopause in Business: The 7 Rules for Reshaping Your Business and the Way You Run Your Business Around Your Menopause." And it was by a lady called Karen Skidmore, who is a business lady, similar age to me, a lot more challenges than me. She's running a house as well. I think she's married with kids, and so she's got a lot more going on. But I want to quote something that she said, because it really made me think about that loss of the creative mojo that I have blamed for why my business isn't doing so well. So she said, "Your body may start to slow down when you hit perimenopause, but if you are a creative entrepreneur like me, ideas never stop coming. A few years ago, I was getting extremely frustrated that I just didn't have the inclination or the energy to implement as much as I once did." And that's definitely something I've seen. So if you saw my Pinterest, you would see huge numbers of ideas, things that I wanted to make, things that I wanted to try and experiment with, but I couldn't find the mental energy to try any of them out. So that was really interesting, and that's why I said I've lost my creative mojo. I could come up with the ideas and I could find the inspiration, but I couldn't sit down in my studio and make any of it. And that's been so frustrating, and that perseveres now. It's something that I can't really shake off. The other one was, it was an article, but it's also almost like a translation of a podcast. And I will add a link to the articles that I've quoted and the podcast that refers to this second article in the show notes, so that you can go and read the whole thing, everything yourself, but you can also listen to this podcast, which is really interesting. So this was called The Ugly Truth About Perimenopause Whilst Running a Business by a website called Savvy Shopkeeper, and the lady's name is Kathy. So there were 2 paragraphs. The first one is really relevant to the early days when things just stopped making sense anymore for me. And she said, before I'd blame it on being an introvert, making poor dietary decisions, not exercising enough, and anything else I could think of. And I did that. I blamed a lot of my loss of creativity and then my inability to push my creativity on social media and things like that with, well, I'm an introvert, I don't like doing all that stuff. And I don't particularly, but I used to do it. And it's something that in the last few years, I have completely switched off to social media. I cannot comprehend it anymore. Making poor dietary decisions. So I've tried to get better with my diet, not exercising enough. Last year I bought an under-desk treadmill, which has been really helpful. And it gives me some control back. And of course, anything else I can think of, well, I can blame the weather, I can blame my routine. There's so many things that I can blame. And then she had another paragraph here where she writes, the symptoms that I've experienced include brain fog, fatigue, inflammation, foot pain, joint pain, weight gain, digestive issues and headaches. And I thought, foot pain. Now I know that joint pain and inflammation can be a perimenopause thing. I did not know that foot pain was part of it, because for the last 2 years I have had quite a lot of pain in my feet. And it's not as bad now. It used to be in both feet. My left foot is now fine. My right foot, it now seems to be isolated to the heel. But it's quite painful. So if I sit down for too long, when I get up, it hurts and I hobble a bit until I can get into like a walking pattern. I've bought Skechers trainers, so I've got memory foam insoles now. I can't walk on the old Converse that I used to because they don't have any sort of contouring to the base of the shoe. So I can't wear any of that. And that's just been such a revelation because I didn't know about any of this. I thought I must have damaged my feet when I started hiking again. I started hiking, I did it full on last year, and I'd started hiking the year before. I thought I must have pulled a ligament or something in my foot. So that kind of really surprised me, and also it was quite reassuring to realise that actually none of what I've been struggling with over the last few years, it all adds up now. It all makes sense. I recognised the symptoms of perimenopause in 2022, and you'll see from this graph, which I'll put up again for you, which I quoted in my last video, that you can see the downturn in the sales, which I know is in part because of the economic situation we're in at the moment. You know, we've had changes in legislation, costs are rising, people aren't buying stuff as much, it's getting really difficult. But I think there is a correlation between the numbers and my complete lack of enthusiasm for what I used to love doing. So the question is, how do I negotiate this? I started to in 2022. I realised that the money was dwindling from my business. So I started to take up new side hustles. I started to do a few things in 2022 and ramped that up in 2023 when I realised this money situation is bad. So in some ways, I've kind of admitted that I can't do anything about the business. I don't have the brain space for it, but I can do other things which are easier for me to manage. And I think part of the problem is that the creativity overwhelms my fatigued brain, which just, it has the ideas and it can bank up the ideas, but I can't find the energy to physically make the stuff. It's really difficult. So do I just let things slide and make when I can, when I have good days, good times? Maybe now that I'm coming into we're now well into spring, maybe the elongated light times will help, because I tend to shut down creatively in the winter. Although this winter, because I had the vitamin D, I had a creative spurt in the winter, which is very unusual. So do I just let things slide and just tick along, earning the money where I can until I come out the other side of this and can pick up and can do better? Obviously, we also have all the economic issues going on at the moment. We have changes in legislation, which means it's harder for me to sell overseas. We have the problems with whatever the tariff situation is in the USA. Prices on postage are high, etc., etc. And I have no control over those things. So do I just almost hibernate and wait for that to change? So is that what I do? I'm going to keep looking into this, because these two women who have had these problems still seem to be functioning as businesses. They may have taken a bit of a step back in terms of that. I think they both did a lot of coaching, so a lot of business coaching. So there was a lot of travelling around, conferences, talks, things like that. And I know that at least one of them has taken a step back from the travel. So that's kind of tweaking the business, but still doing it. Whereas I feel like I've almost entirely given up. Yes, I have, the website is running and all that kind of stuff is up, but I don't feel like I'm physically adding to it or being very proactive in trying to sell it. Because like today, I didn't sleep as well last night because it was quite noisy outside, Saturday night. And today, although I am getting things done, I am doing all the things that I need to do today, I am definitely not quite here. It's a fuzzy plane. I feel quite disconnected from everything that's going on around me, and I'm kind of almost going through the motions. So it's weird that I've decided that, because I had on my list today to do this vlog, and because I wanted to grab the words and the phrases and the ideas that I had for it that were kind of swimming around in my head, if I leave it another day, I'll have forgotten everything I wanted to say. So I wrote some of it down, but also I needed to be in a place where I could think in the moment as to what it was. And that's why I've decided to do this today. So this is me in my slightly fatigued, slightly brain foggy state. And I feel like I'm a bit more flatlined than I sometimes am. You might not notice the difference, because I always feel quite flatlined. I have quite a flat accent. It's a southeast England accent, and it's quite flat. I don't have lots of ups and downs like a lot of YouTubers. And yes, I definitely feel like I lack the enthusiasm, but that's kind of the way I am. I'm also an introvert. I am not very animated. I never have been. This is just the way I am. So I thought I wanted to get that out. I wanted to say what I thought about that. And I know that some of you following are also crafters and makers in a similar age group to me. And for anyone that's in a similar situation, I be really interested to hear what your experience has been and how you've either managed to navigate it, or if you didn't and you just thought, you know what, I'm just going to let nature take its course. I'm going to do what I can for myself, but I'm just going to have to let the hormones sort themselves out. Because there's only so much you can do. You can't take something and everything goes back to normal. I am very lucky that my symptoms are as few as they are, because I know, for instance, I mentioned my best friend who has been through so much in the few years that she's been at this stage of life, and I don't know how she's got her sanity. I really don't, because the things she goes through, I couldn't imagine. I really couldn't. Anyway, so I thought I would put that in. As I say, I'll add links to everything in the show notes so that you can go and read the articles yourself and you can listen to that podcast. I'm going to do some more deep diving into this. I think it's worth understanding a bit more. Because I read some statistics, like it's something like either 1 in 8 or 1 in 10 women gives up work because the menopause is so bad that they can't function anymore. And if I had a 9-to-5 job where I had to go and do a regular job, maybe in an office or something like that, the amount of time I would have had off so far would be ridiculous. Because there are days when the headaches kick in, when, you know, there are days when I can't even get up off the sofa. It's really hard, and I feel so sorry for anyone that has to go through this and still has to hold down a regular job. It's absolutely miserable. So I'll leave you on that happy note. This is just what it is. This is part of the challenge, and I wish I had known that this was going to be a thing. I had no idea. I hadn't even read anything about the menopause when I started getting the symptoms. You just don't. I knew it existed, but I never thought about how I was going to have to navigate it. I never thought about it. I just think, well, I'm never ill. Nothing ever happens to me. I'm always pretty good. I go to all my appointments, all my, doctor's appointments and things. I know there's nothing particularly wrong with me. I'm not the fittest and healthiest person that I should be, but it could be worse. And I am always conscious of not slipping below a certain rung of the ladder on that. But I think if I had known that this was going to happen, I would have made a conscious effort to change the way I worked. And instead of beating myself up about this and thinking how I've just lost my creativity, I've stopped caring, I would have maybe even mothballed the business and found something else that I could do which worked in harmony with the situation I'm now in. I don't think it's too late for that. I probably have a good few years of this to go through yet. And I am slowly adjusting my life to allow me to do that and be more flexible, so that if I have bad days, I can just say, okay, I've had a bad day. I can't do anything today, and just work around it. So that's my thoughts on that. If you have any comments to add, please do. I would love to get into some conversations about this and hear about how you are dealing with this, if you are, or if you come through the other side and you've got some tips. I would love some tips about this, I really would. So thank you for watching this and listening to me drone on, as I often do. And it's interesting to get a different perspective, and in many ways it makes me feel better about the situation, because instead of me thinking it's just me failing, it's me going through something that almost every woman will, and there's only so much control I can have over that. So that's the end of that on a cold Sunday morning. Thank you for watching, and I shall speak to you soon. Bye bye.